and that is the Interactive Media and Games Division of the USC Film School. These are all students in the program. They're undergrad students currently, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves since they are fully qualified to do that and less qualified. The general idea of the panel is that they are going to talk about what it is to make games as a student right now in this interesting historical moment, and give us their perspective on specific. In some cases, they're going to do postmortems. In others, they'll talk in the research way. All right.
Thank you. So hi, thank you for making it out after the short lunch break. I really appreciate taking your time to come out. So hi, I'm Jocelyn Kim. I go by she, her. I'm a Korean American pansexual game dev, and I've been making games for about 2.5 years maybe. So on the bottom you can see some examples of my work. I was art lead on Ectoplaza, which I started out at Derby Digital, which is like a month-long game jam that it happens in Scotland. And then we went on to win the audience award there, and then we showed at Indiecade and Tokyo Game Show and Protoplay, and right now it's out on the Nintendo Wii U. And then I also do visual design work for Mega, which is some Makers of Entertaining Games Association, and that's USC's Game Dev Club. So we just do a bunch of like game dev related events and whatnot. And then I also freelance and I do concept art and illustration work for Yacht Club Games, and they make Shovel Knight. And recently, Spectre of Torment came out on the Switch, so you should play that. It's really good. So first off, I just want to talk about adolescence, because there's like a lot of misconceptions associated with that. So according to Google, it means the period following the onset of puberty, during which a young person develops from a child into an adult. So that's really vague, but basically it just means like the development you go through physically and emotionally, intellectually, whatever, like when you transition from being a child, quote, quote, into an adult. So not only that, but adolescence can actually extend past your teens, and it depends on every person, but it's very possible that you could be considered an adolescent well into your 20s or even 30s. As for me, it took me a pretty long time to figure out some really personal things about myself. I think even now I would still consider myself somewhat an adolescent. For most of my life, I considered myself like very heteronormative. I thought I was, like completely cis and straight, vanilla, whatever. And I never really asked any questions about my identity. I always had a fixation on female characters in games, but I never considered it romantic, just because I never really thought about that. The thought of being gay was so alien, I never really seriously considered it. And I know that I had a lot of internalized homophobia because I grew up in a Korean American Christian community, which is largely homophobic, transphobic. But eventually, in my last couple of years of high school, I learned about this concept of adolescence extending into your 20s, and I realized like maybe there are some questions I need to ask about my own identity. So in the end, I discovered that, sorry, this is a really stupid picture. So jump forward to a couple of years ago when I started attending USC. I was ready for a new start after spending the last few years of my life being really depressed and questioned or just like questioning myself in high school. So I discovered that USC had an incredible game design program, and I realized that it's actually possible for me to make games. Like, I don't have to be a white dude to make games. That's amazing. So I started making games. I transferred from the Rothsky School of Art and Design into the USC School of Cinematic Arts, and it's been great so far. And I also, somehow IMGD is like a queer nerd kid haven, so I got to know a bunch of queer kids here. It was really cool. So at this point, I knew I liked girls. It was more like a vague thought than anything. But, like I said, all the queer kids, came together. I guess the queer dart is a thing somehow. And we went through some hardships, but I realized over time it's really important to kind of have your own queer circle of friends. It makes you vulnerable. It's scary sometimes. You show off all the cracks in your persona. And as somebody who has a hard time connecting with people, it was difficult for me to suddenly make all these new connections. But I realized it's really important to have that kind of trust with someone. Just being able to talk about issues relating to queerness and identity and sexuality with somebody is it's a huge step, but it helps you so much. So, as for my identity, I don't know, I'm still figuring it out, and it's weird for me to use words to kind of quantify it, but, in the end, I'm gay. It makes me feel really content, but I feel like on this journey I feel more content than ever to just say I'm gay any chance I get. So I guess like a thesis or some kind of idea I want to bring into this talk is just to say that like everybody is a student. I know that there are people in this room who are probably much older than me and much wiser, but I think that especially in regards to queerness in games, it's such a new thing. I feel like that subject alone is like in its own adolescence, and we're all still learning stuff about it. Game developers are all students. The industry and the nature of games is constantly changing. Advocates and teachers, we're all still learning together. Yeah. So moving on for my own journey in making games, there's a lot of pressure in being a quote unquote woman in games. So first of all, I have an intense dislike for being stereotyped. I didn't want to be yet another woman who does art only. And like, don't get me wrong, women who do art are great and I respect them. But it was just really demeaning to constantly have people talk to me only to just ask me to do art for free. And it really bothered me. So I began to pursue code out of pure spite. It worked out because I ended up really loving it, and code is now one of my a major hobby for me. But I realized eventually that spite is like not a great motivator to keep me going. So yeah, that kind of sucks. And also being marginalized means I have to hear about like terrible things happening all the time, and it turned me into a disillusioned zombie. And like it's okay, like I still love games, but it still sucks. So it's like all this like extra baggage just made me feel weird about like taking on the title of being a woman in games. Like I still go by she, her, and I embrace my own femininity, but it's strange that I get all these opportunities, and I know that like some of my non-binary identified or trans peers can't exactly benefit from the same opportunities that I get. But as a student, we're forced into this weird mindset of like commodifying ourselves as products for companies to take, and kind of we have to take advantage of whatever professional hook we can grab onto. So overall, it's just weird, and I really hope that in the future there are more options to help out people of all genders that are not just the default cis male. So going back to 2015, when I first attended QGCon in 2015, I made a game at the Rainbow Jam called Waiting for My Protag. It was about my frustration about not seeing any popular media protagonists that spoke to me. And these are kind of like a snapshot of feelings I had when I was really depressed in high school. And I attended an elite boarding school in Connecticut. I was surrounded by upper class white peers. I felt like an alien there basically. So I feel like even today it's still like a really contentious subject. Like it's really easy for someone like me to lose hope when all eyes are on Hollywood, and like somehow white nerd boys' opinions somehow matter more than my own as an Asian American who literally grew up with Asian media. Especially with the recent controversies with Dragon Ball Z, Ghost in the Shell, and Death Note. All these adaptations, it's really easy to just take a glance at the entertainment industry and only feel disappointment, like, oh, there's no way I could actually like break in and make my own voice heard. But there's this one comment I got on Waiting for My Protag that fuels me to keep going, and it says, this game was a nice experience, even if it was a little sad. It really validated how I felt about being able to see how little people like me are represented and how so many other people just don't get it. This would be a great tool in getting other people who are represented to see how we feel, even if it is just a little bit. So, like, I wouldn't call my game an empathy game by any means. I would rather make games that validate the feelings of others who are in a similar position as me. I want to make games for the 14-year-old me who is so conflicted about her own Korean American identity. So this comment has like fueled me to keep going for a while. I appreciate it. And I just wanted to talk quickly about Overwatch because I know everybody's been playing it. So Overwatch is really interesting because I grew up playing a lot of competitive games. So I think I started off with like Team Fortress 2 and like StarCraft and Diablo, and then like I played like League of Legends and a bunch of other stuff. So it's really interesting to me to see this competitive focused game, like this esportsy game, try to like have diversity as a tenet of their design. It was just really interesting because you see games like Team Fortress 2 or League of Legends, and it's just like a bunch of really sexy girls and like just like a cast full of men and whatnot. So it's obviously Overwatch isn't perfect, but I know that based on what I've seen, like it seems like they're learning and listening. They acknowledge that they make mistakes, and I really appreciate that they're at least trying, because you know the entire world scrutinizes Blizzard at every corner, and I really wish that we could teach people to do that and try to make steps instead of being too scared to make any kind of action. It means a lot. So there's also this feature that came out recently with Shovel Knight. So basically, you can change the physical appearance of the characters in the original campaign to look either more masculine or feminine. You can also change what pronouns they use, either she, her, or he, him, by choosing the male and female gender symbols. So overall, from what I saw when it released, maybe it was last month, there was a lot of positive reception. Like there are some Twitter people yelling about how they can make Shovel Knight a lesbian now. There are some Twitter eggs grumbling about PC culture and identity politics or whatever. So there was kind of a mix, but overall it was pretty good. But I think that because I knew I had some tangential relationship to the feature, I became way too fixated on the negative feedback, especially from the people who were disappointed in what the feature lacked. I remember being at QGC and being really excited and looking through the tags on a break, and I came across some posts that said that the feature and like reading about the feature and not feeling included had contributed to their dysphoria, and that like really that broke my heart, because you know I wanted to be an advocate and kind of like advocate for everybody in all my professional walks of life, but I felt that I had really failed this time just because I theoretically had the power to know know what to change about this feature in time in order to make these users happy, but I didn't, and it was unrealistic. And I shouldn't have blamed myself, but I did. So for the next couple of nights, I felt really bad, and I took it way too personally, which is something I shouldn't have done. I had a lot of doubts in my own queer identity because, you know, like if I were really queer, I wouldn't make mistakes, right? But that's not true. That's where I failed as an advocate. I forgot that I'm still learning, and it's all about listening to others. And it doesn't mean, like, you know, making a mistake doesn't invalidate my own identity. So it took me a while, but I got over it, and I started looking on the bright side. So I think when you're making something, especially when you want to make a step towards like progress, and it might potentially be contentious, you just want to listen to your fans and trust and respect their feedback. So even just like going through a couple tweets, I saw like some people like offering up their own feedback and suggestions, and I think it's really important to kind of show that you care. Yeah, so that's basically it. You can follow my Twitter, you can follow my itch. That's my Tumblr blog, you can email me. Yeah, thank you for listening.
So if this bit goes quickly, not my presentation, that's going to go on forever.
You want some mic?
Yeah, that would be nice, actually. There's my Twitter and my URL, heather.flowers, is the best purchase I have made in my entire life. I am a student, and as you might have guessed by this panel, and also as you might have guessed by this panel, I make games. I make a lot of games. So I could talk like for hours about each of the individual games that I've made, but I want to take some time to talk about one that I didn't make. I want to talk about a game that I made last summer called Harbinger. Harbinger is many things. It was many things. It was a platforming game where you would talk to people, but your head is a megaphone, so you can't hear what you're saying. All that you can understand is what people say back to you. So it's about trying to understand who you are based on the reactions of other people. And I'll go more in depth later as to like certain mechanics in Harbinger and how they relate to stuff, but I'm just going to say right now it's a very trans game. But it didn't start out like that. Harbinger came largely out of my love of two things. ASCII art, all that stuff up there is stuff that I've made. I have a pretty fun style. And weird mid-2000s platformers. This is Fancy Pants Adventure World 2, one of the best ever made. So for a while, that's what the game was. I had made the first level or so, and things were just going pretty well. I had a talking mechanic in, which was pretty sweet. Time would slow down when you ran by people. And that was what it was for a good couple weeks. And I was working pretty hard on it, and then something happened. I transgended. And that's when things got a little bit more complicated. I realized sometime in August, I don't exactly remember when, it might have been late July actually, that I was a trans woman, and I was in the middle of Oklahoma away from all my friends, and I couldn't really talk it out with many people. I mean, I texted some people, but really the only tool I had to deal with this was through the process of game making. I've used games in the past to like help process my feelings about different traumatic events over time, and I figured this would also be, well, not traumatic, but so I started work on it, and it very easily fit into the trans narrative that I was making, which is good because looking back, the original script accidentally looked very much like an argument for eugenics, but anyways. So the game expanded, and eventually it was planned to have 5 worlds. They only ever made 3 of them. You would run through these open plains and forests. The forests were occupied by these weird little slug things that lived in houses on the trees. They were adorable. And in the end, it was supposed to have this climax where you would spend approximately an hour having a long conversation with a tentacle coming out of the ground. The game went some weird places, but I was committed to my vision. So I worked, and it was beautiful at times, and it was weird, and it was fun, but it was so much. This was a massive thing. I'm one person. I have schoolwork. What was I thinking? And so I burned out. Obviously I did, looking back. Like, there was no doubt from the first time that I started expanding the plot of this game that I was going to burn out. I couldn't make games for a couple weeks after that, which doesn't sound like that long of a time, but seeing as making games is my homework, that was not a good thing. So I realized that I had developed an unhealthy relationship with the game. I had started out using game making to help my coming out. When, at the end of the day, when Harbinger was done, I planned on releasing it, and that would be me coming out as a trans woman. And I thought, this is a great idea. And it was for a while. It helped me process a lot of my feelings. It helped me express things that I was feeling that I didn't know how to say with words. But by the end of it, I was doing the opposite of what I had been doing earlier. I was using the process of coming out to help my game making. I was commodifying my own experience as a trans woman in order to like put more and more and more of myself into the game, which sounds fine at first, but I was expending not just physical energy, like physical labor, I was putting real emotional labor into this game. And that was unhealthy garbage. So I didn't make games for a couple weeks after that. I was in this very weird state. Eventually, like a couple months after I posted the demo, I took it down off itch. This game, and then a while later, I swapped computers, and because my old one died, and long story short, the game literally does not exist. All that I have is the screenshots that I posted already. So, I had a couple weeks, and then something happened. Something beautiful. I started making a new game, and it was fun. It was weird. It was incredible. This is the game that I made in October called 10,000 Years, which is about exploring a nuclear waste disposal site 10,000 years in the future. and like I enjoyed it a lot. I spent just a few weeks on that game and released it, and then it was done. By being able to finish something, I had done more for myself than just slogging on the same project over and over again for so long. And then I made another game. This was also in October. Well, this was a set of 4 games. I make a lot of games. Anyways, this was one about being in a very small space with something that wants to hurt you. A lot of my games are about that. These games all sort of share commonalities with Harbinger. I mean, this one, it has my real name on it, which is nice, and additionally, it has that same sort of weird, otherworldly tone to it that I was really striving for, and also ASCII art, except this stuff is in 3D. And this one has that also weird tone that's just my thing. And then this one, this is a B-movie game, but every time you beat it, it gets faster. That's literally all you need to know about this game. I made it in 2 hours. You can buy it if you really want to. So this is another game that I made during the Global Game Jam. It's called Twirl, and it has the same ASCII art style that I was using in Harbinger, and it expresses similar emotions, trying to feel right in a world where everything seems wrong, trying to understand yourself even as what you consider yourself, what your body is, turns against you. And all you do is dance for 3 minutes. That's the entire game. And then this one, which is the one that I'm currently working on. Well, one of the ones that I'm currently working on. It's called Secret Spaces, and dang, that is very dark. Can I?
No, number 3. No, number 2.
Number 2, yeah. There, now you can kind of see it. This game is very dark. I need to fix that. It's still a work in progress, but essentially it's about exploring an infinitely large basement and using plants to progress through the environment. It's sort of about setting up temporary gardens, gathering what you need to, and then moving on. And it's sort of, it evokes the same emotions, but through more complicated systems, but also a lot less work. Procedural generation, like, it's fun. I've been enjoying the things that I've made ever since I stopped working on the one thing that was holding me down. And that's kind of what I want to talk about. Oh yeah, this is the part where I plug for my website. You can download all of my games on there. I think there's like 17 up there. Some number. Anyways, heather.flowers is my website. It'll also be up there at the end. So please buy my stuff. I'm a student. So let's go on to some takeaways real fast. Or not real fast. I'm probably going to linger on a couple of these. But first off, don't overscope things. I mean, like, obviously, everybody knows that. But don't do it. It's bad. It hurts. It sucks. Especially if you're one person. Like, you have to take into account not just what you are willing to do, but what you are physically capable of doing. I spent all of my energy, on Harbinger, and I couldn't do anything else other than work on it. And that was a terrible place to be in. Second off, coming out games are weird. I mean, like, that's a weird takeaway to give, but, like, they take a lot of effort into putting into them, and when it comes down to it, you can just kind of come out. I didn't realize that. You can make a Facebook post, and then it's done. You don't have to work on it for months just to, like, make sure. You can just do it. Easiest thing in the world. Like, I'm trans. Send. I mean, of course, there's more emotional labor involved with that, and you go yada yada yada. But anybody who's come out already knows all that stuff. I mean, they definitely do have a positive place, but they're not necessary. You don't have to make some work of art as a testament to your transness. And third off, it's okay to let go of things. Like, even if something is the best thing you've ever made, if it hurts you, you can just stop. Like, Harbinger was no doubt the most important game I had ever made. It meant more to me than any other. It still means more to me than almost any other game I've ever made. But it was hurting me. I felt in pain whenever I looked at it. I opened up the Unity project back on my old laptop right before I got rid of it, And it physically exhausted me even looking at the hierarchy in it, which, I mean, like, shows exactly how toxic the whole thing was. But it's okay to let go of projects. You don't have to feel any commitment unless you like have a legal obligation, but you don't have to feel any commitment to a personal project if it's hurting you. You can just let go of it. And again, yeah, I'm Heather Robertson. Thank you for having me. You can follow me on Twitter at HTHRFLWRS. Why did I pick that? And you can follow me. I mean, you can follow my itch at heather.flowers. If you're on Mastodon, you cool folks out there, I'm HTHR there. And yeah, thank you so much.